So, on to a conversation with our guest. She calls herself the bad girl. Bad girl Millie.
Yes.
MP for Super North. Good morning.
Morning.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Good to see you on this end of the year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And good to see you too.
Yes. Karibu sana.
Asante.
I know it's been a very busy season for you as well. Although Parliament just resumed, what did you do with your recess?
Wow, I did very many things.
What, like?
You know, for us in recess, it's not really recess.
It's not holiday.
It's not holiday. So I did a lot of work with my constituents. I did, mentorship. I looked at projects, ongoing projects. So basically oversight, like for instance, there's an ongoing tarmacking of a Rusinga Ring Road. We had a meeting to just ensure that it's going on well, amongst other things. So basically that. But then also family time.
Right. You talked about that project that you've just mentioned. Is there one that you're particularly really excited about? One of the projects that you're overseeing that you feel, this one I'm excited about?
Well, very, very many, but many that we are doing with CDF. But of course, the Rusinga Island Ring Road is just really exciting for us because we've only had like about, is it like 10 kilometers of tarmac ever since in the entire constituency. So we actually have two that are ongoing, but one is coming from the side of Super South. I've talked to the CS if they can intervene to see that it's done on both ends.
On both sides.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but other than that, we have KMTC that is fully funded by NGCDF. Hopefully the first intake will be in July. Our TTI is doing really well. We actually overwhelmed at the response of the students. I think the intake, it's hardly a year old, but the intake is already over 300. Okay. So the principal keeps calling me sometimes, they just need plastic chairs. We start like that basic.
Okay, those are good problems.
Yeah. They are very good problems.
They're good problems.
Start somewhere and move somewhere.
Yeah.
So Millie, we've invited you so that we can talk about what's going on from the courts to Parliament, resumed yesterday. Business of the house had to, first of all, take a break so we can deal with an emerging business, and that's why you're here. But before we dive right into it, the girl here, as we know you as bad girl.
I was going to be like,
bad girl.
I was about to push back, then I'm like, wait, actually,
good
because
girl,
we have bad girl, I'll take the girl element for this hour.
Yeah. This girl, Jano, she's very good with, looking at what has been said by people.
Yes.
And contextualizing it and bringing it to the present.
Yes.
So listen to her. She's going to give us a quote that was said by somebody. She'll give us a hint of who the person is.
I hope not me.
Now you've given us an idea. Now you've given us an idea. So now, in a few weeks, so this person is, I would want to describe her as one of the greatest authors of our time. A female author who has really put African literature on the global map. So I'll leave that hint. Read the quote and see whether there's any other hint that you need. But right now I can say, one of the greatest female authors of our time who has put Africa on the map with her incredible storytelling. She said, culture does not make people. People make culture. If it is true that the full humanity of women is not our culture, then we can and must make it our culture. Who said that?
Most likely Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie.
What gave it away?
One, the greatest who has put Africa on the map. And I just love her. She's a great, great author.
Have you met her?
No, I have not, but I have to meet her. Come rain, come shine.
Come rain, come shine.
Yeah.
No, and she said this
like you can be inspired by somebody younger. She does inspire me.
Great.
I've always written all my life, but I've never published. So when I read, you can't believe this, but when I was a student in New York University, I started writing a book called The American African. When I saw Americana, I'm like, goodness, this is what I wanted. But of course, I can't write it as well as she did. But all the thoughts, everything about race, about identity, etc., from my experience living in the U.S. It's Americana.
Yeah, but everyone's experience is different.
Yes,
so maybe we'll still hold you to it to publish.
No.
Your own version of
Americana
next level.
Oh yes, it's a different level. Don't I can't even try it. Let me look for something else.
She said this at a TED Talk. She gave a very, very, very powerful TED Talk in 2012 called "We Should All Be Feminists." One of the most watched TED Talks.
I've seen that.
And she kind of moved a needle in terms of how people view feminism.
Yes.
And she has stuck to it very critical, in her very calm demeanor. So yeah, she's got quiet power, I think.
Very.
And I agree with you. She's one of that. You didn't ask me if I've met her, and I've met her, by the way. But it's okay.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
but story for another day.
I haven't met her, but I'm here to meet her.
Story for another day. I know we're here to have this conversation about what transpired in Parliament yesterday with Honorable Millie and just to really talk about the dynamics of what we saw yesterday, you know. What a session.
Yes, it was.
Let's have the ball rolling. So it begins with a High Court judgment.
Yes.
That is a culmination of an application that had been taken to court. And the judgment then says several things. And then Parliament resumes its sessions yesterday. And we see you, among others, sitting on the other side.
Yes.
And you stood and you raised and you moved several motions, including asking the Speaker to just step aside.
Yes.
Vuka sakafu, komwendo wa aste aste.
Yes.
And come to this side.
Yeah.
Let's start. What was the court decision all about, and what did it say?
Well, this was a petition that was brought to the court almost 2 years ago, immediately, I think, after elections. And it was arising from a decision or a ruling that the Speaker made then, declaring Kenya Kwanza as the majority in Parliament. And so these people challenged that court decision. I mean, that ruling by the Speaker. And unfortunately, though, I would want to say I wish the courts would be making decisions much faster. But now coming 2 years late, the court has actually confirmed what we've always all along known, that actually Azimio should have been declared as the majority party in Parliament. So now the issue then yesterday, fast track, they had actually sought for many orders, but the court zeroed into basically two issues. One was the issue of conflict of interest for the Speaker, when he is actually a party leader of Ford Kenya, and also on the issue of a majority-minority leadership.
Yeah.
And so, of course, the court in the last, or rather, the findings did not really pronounce itself to the issue of the Speaker. But actually, when you look at the judgment, they mentioned the issue of conflict of interest. And they said that the Speaker cannot really serve well as the party leader of Ford Kenya and be a partial or rather partial umpire in Parliament. It's sort of like saying my party leader, Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, is the Speaker. Of course, you expect him to be biased. So basically, the court is just saying the obvious, stating the obvious. Of course, the Speaker, ruled immediately on that, and they said no. That is possible, and many examples were given, especially by the other side, giving examples of Tulia Ackson of Tanzania, amongst others, who sit in the same sort of position. But the other issue, of course, was also the majority-minority issue. Yeah.
It came out, and we saw, heated debate back and forth. I mean, you people spoke for so many hours.
Yes.
And the Speaker was saying, just continue talking. You're enriching my mind as I retreat to go and come back with a decision on this particular matter. Let's play two clips here. One, Millie Odhiambo herself, and the other one, the majority leader, who's currently on record, Kimani Ichung'wah, and then later we shall play the minority leader who had occupied the majority leader's position yesterday, Junet Mohammed. Let's start with Millie and then Kimani. So it's all together. All right, let's see. All of them here, they're together.
Mr. Speaker, I want to just indicate that I have therefore, as the majority party whip of Azimio, today handed over to your office a copy of that decision of the High Court with a letter that we are giving you according to the standing orders, our majority leader as Honorable Junet Mohammed and Honorable Robert Mbui.
And I am capable of doing that work, Mr. Speaker. I have the capacity, I have the qualifications. Even when I sat on the seat, it is very warm, Mr. Speaker, unlike mine, which was very cold, Mr. Speaker. I didn't know the seats of Parliament have different warmth, Mr. Speaker.
Gentlemen who went to court with a total of 34 prayers before the court. Amongst those prayers was a declaration by the court that the Azimio coalition be declared as a majority party and the leader of the Azimio coalition in Parliament be declared as the majority leader in the House. The court declined to give that declaration or that ruling.
What happens to what we've passed in the past 2 years? What happens to the right decisions that are leading this country in the past 2 years, Mr. Speaker? What happens to the IEBC selection panel? Those are the questions. Otherwise, I'll tell my colleagues, the Honorable Millie Odhiambo, who is saying that she has added in her CV the position of the chief whip of the majority. She'll only do that, Honorable Speaker, in her dreams. It will not work. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Those are good questions, honestly, and we will get to them because I think it is something to interrogate everything that has happened in Parliament, right, since 2022. But I want to go back a little bit and begin with the defections. How do they affect the numbers in Parliament? Quite a number of Azimio MPs did move, switch camp, quote unquote. How does that affect majority versus minority numbers? I know the court said election results are what we are using.
Yes.
Not post, right?
Yes. And the courts can only be guided by the law. It can't go by feelings. You know, it's not a love affair. And in us as politicians, we are not the people you can rely on to tell you where I stand. In that Parliament today, I don't know who belongs to which coalition. And people can change. And you know, people are focusing. Like you actually said, the speaker gave us a lot of time to ventilate. But when I actually went back home later, I discovered why we had so much time to ventilate.
What was that?
Because from a political point of view, we were waiting for a letter from the registrar. That's a reality. We were basically waiting for a letter from the registrar.
Buying time.
We were buying time. That's a reality.
What was the
letter? The letter was to give what the quote current membership or coalition, which actually I've not looked at it, but I highly suspect will be tilted in favor of KK. Why? Because that was an issue in the original, in the suit. And at that time, if you actually look at the suit, the petition, the affidavit of the speaker himself, he alluded to the fact that the registrar took so long, blah, 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 cast aspersions on the registrar that she took time, blah, blah, blah.
So he had to make a decision based on what he said.
But now, which it's good, the registrar moved very fast, but now she moved at the speed of lightning. Gladys Beausoleil requested for the letter in the morning, and while we were debating, just before we concluded, the letter came. And what I can tell you is, even without looking at it, I highly suspect it has breached the law. Because the coalition agreements have a particular way in which you can exit a coalition. And most of those people, we just sing and dance, but we have not followed the law on coalitions. And I would want to encourage parties that when you are getting into coalitions, just like Rigiji says, that this time he will not take the mountain into coalitions without valid agreements. But that is not just it. What it needs to do, and other politicians, look at the fine lines of those agreements. And our coalition agreement has put very stringent ways, standards on getting out. So most of those people that are saying have left, have not left. And let me also put another question. All these Rigiji people in Parliament, where do they belong right now? Are they counted No, if we were to use the feelings,
right,
and not the law.
But you said we use the law.
But you said we use the law.
Yes, that's what I'm telling you. Let's use the law. So that's what I'm pushing for.
Yeah.
Because if you are using feelings, then let us also count them out of Kenya Kwanza.
So
but we can't use feelings. We can't say that because they are in political party rallies with the Rigiji and blah, blah, blah. It has to be a legal issue, a political issue.
UDA.
Yes, a political issue backed by law.
Okay.
It is political,
yes,
but it has to be backed by law because you can't trust us as politicians. I'll tell you today that I'm in Azimio, and then the next day, I'm in something else. Am I in Azimio now? Am I in Broadbase now? Am I?
You've emphasized this importance of court rulings, and I know we'll come back to the specifics, but then what happens in terms of steps that Parliament can take to align itself with future judicial decisions? Because you've spoken to a few things here. There's almost sort of like a specific oversight that's required, that is outside of feelings, that is coming to law. How does this set the tone for what needs to happen in future should there be such an issue in Parliament?
Well, what I would say, the person that has put us actually in this awkward position is a court, to be very honest. The court should have made their decisions then. And I'm not really too sure whether their decision would have been the same. I mean, let's look at the even wider political angle. It is fairly sort of also obvious that the courts are not very happy with the executive at this point, and sort of by extension, they see Parliament as complicit in actions against judiciary, which we may or may not be. And so I'm not really too sure. Yeah, I don't want also to cast aspersions on the judges, but I'm not too sure whether this decision would have been the same if it was delivered 2 years earlier. Because then I don't know whether would have been told our majority is hot air, you know. And wild goose chase.
Be that as it may, do you agree with the court's decision now?
Of course, I do agree with the court's decision.
Because it favors you?
Because the court's decision, they base their decisions on what is presented before them. The petition that was before them was about majority, the ruling by the speaker.
Yep.
And definitely that ruling by the speaker was defective. We were the majority. We have 14 members who had moved from 4 parties. But there are 14 members in total who had not moved, who had actually given intention to move. But they are not effected it legally. So because they are not effected it legally, the majority was actually still Azimio. It would have changed later, but it was Azimio. And then I've looked at the standing orders and I've not actually seen where it talks about, maybe I'll still come again, I'm going to relook at it, but I've not seen where it talks about when majorities change, and perhaps that is something we need to look at, because maybe it may be that we may be looking every week. The way things are going, we might be actually changing majorities every week in Parliament. And that is why the courts were more guided about what did the public want. What was the position of the public? And in a functional democracy, actually, what you should do, because that mandate is given to you by the public. It's not your mandate that you can actually change at will, like you change your, like when I was coming here, I wore a blue dress. I saw it didn't fit me too well. So I've changed to this one. No, the mandate is given by the public. And just like my party leader did at some point when he didn't agree with his party, resigned, and asked the people, do you want me to go left or right? And the people did. And if you ask me, for instance, like now the team of Rigiji, if I were them, they should actually set a clean agenda. Resign.
And step aside.
No, not step aside. Come back.
Resign from their party, occasion a by-election.
And come back.
Seek a fresh mandate.
Come back. Don't wait for 2027 and start saying, oh, in 2027 we'll do X, Y. Resign now.
Start doing it now.
Do it now and come back. Yeah.
Right.
All right. So
we're about to get into a break. But does the Speaker have the authority to determine who is the majority party in Parliament, just as we get into the break?
Well, if you look at what the standing order says, it's not about him determining. It's an issue of fact. What he has is the authority to read the fact.
Okay.
Yes. He has the authority to read the fact.
That's it.
Because it's not an issue of subjectiveness that he says pinky, ponky, majority. No.
Right. So then it was flawed from the beginning. We're taking a really short break. We'll be back with What's Up Nation. And of course, we'll be speaking to Honorable Millie about this majority versus minority rule. What are the implications? Good questions have been asked about the work that has been done in Parliament since 2022. Does it come into question? All of that and more when we're back. Hashtag is Fixing the Nation NTV.
My name is Eric Kibuba. I am currently the chair of the NSK Nairobi branch. The second edition of the BD Golf Classic is indeed an important event for our members, for all advocates, because it is one of the forums through which we are going to be creating networks and relationships. I would like to really speak to the need for members to show up for the simple reason that we are now always online meetings, online courts. And as a branch, we are very keen on creating forums through which members can meet physically. Golf is one of those things that provides an avenue for fitness, creating of networks, and building of relationships. This tournament is open to anyone interested in just learning golf. You can sign up for this event by reaching out to the LSK Nairobi Branch Secretariat. So, learned colleagues, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to a day of fun, golf, excitement, networking, and building of relationships on the 28th of February 2025 at the Royal Nairobi Golf Club from 6 a.m. in the morning. Karibuni sana and see you there.
Buda, kama uko na kakitu, maganji, usikuwe mgamu sana kwa mpenzio. Time to time, mfanyie surprise. Mpeleke salon atengenezwe kanywele hivi, mchukulie kasimu kazuri, peleka yeye dina kwa hoteli kapoa, akaange tu amefurahi. Utajionea mafuriko ya upendo.
Forget mafuriko za upendo by Vuma, dial star 812 star 803 hash.
Skiza, non-nation. Skiza, non-nation.
Over a marathon 38-game season, sustaining a high level of performance is easier said than done. In Barcelona's case, they began their La Liga campaign in scintillating fashion, flying to the blocks with an impressive run of wins. But a mid-season form slump has derailed the early runaway leaders, who now find themselves playing catch-up.
Shield your families from germs. When Dettol is a part of every household bucket, then you and your family can stay protected from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday use of Dettol keeps my loved ones protected.
Wiki hii katika kilimo almasi.
Huyo mgurumo wa mashini inamstimulate huyo ng'ombe aweze kuachilia maziwa kwa matiti yake.
Ninapoelekea sokoni nitajuaje kama maziwa si mazuri?
Haifai kuwa na rangi yote isipokuwa nyeupe. Haifai kuwa na mnuko wote isipokuwa mnuko wake wa kawaida wa maziwa. Haifai kuwa na ladha yote nyingine isipokuwa ile ya maziwa yake yenyewe halisi.
Silage pit yetu ikijaa inaweza ikalisha ng'ombe kwa mwaka mzima. Baada ya kuiweka hapa tunachukua tingatinga inakuja inapita juu. Hii ni kwa sababu tunataka tutoe ile hewa ambayo iko ndani.
hustle is survival.
When a love once lost.
Catch these exciting shows only on Maisha Magic Plus on DSTV channel 163 and GoTV channel 3.
What's a nation? My name is Jay Achungo and currently I'm in Vihiga County. In Vihiga County right now, we are preparing for a whole new planting season, and if you go to anybody's lands, you won't miss this. We are all excited for this season because in our last season, we faced immense drought that affected our harvest, but this time round, we are very optimistic and looking forward to a bounty harvest.
Eric Asonga here, or as Eric likes to call me, Scooby Asosh from Nakuru 97.7 Nation FM. And I was wondering if you have seen headline on the Star which reads that 100 MPs head to Addis for Raila's AUC polls debate. Whatever you give this information is entirely up to you.
I'm Felix Lemashon from Kilgoris, Narok County. I think so Donald Trump has done something good so that those money has been found in USA. We have some individual who have been putting in their pocket. I like to give Donald Trump a dance up. It is time as a country we wake up, we're doing for our own people because we are rich.
What's up nation? Ronald Dibondo here. Niko hapa na kunywa chai. I'm just waiting to go to school, manze.
What's up, nation?
Hey.
And everybody who's saying what they're doing and what they're feeling and the emotions about it. I agree with Felix from Narok. I mean, it's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
Well, I don't agree on the thumbs up to Trump.
Thumbs up and we are rich. We said we are rich.
Yeah.
Tunazaifanya ourselves.
Let us hear what you're thinking, what you're saying. We are rich, right?
Yes, we are rich as a country. We're just poor in management.
Ooh.
Yes.
Tunakula.
When we come back in a few months and say, who said that?
As a country, we are just poor.
In management and in implementation.
Yes.
Again, really celebrating Jay Achuno. She said she's Jay Achuno from Vihiga. And Ronald, I like I said it in the previous hour, I'll say it again. Continue sending those. Tell us about what is changing in your county, what you're excited about, what's been plaguing your county, your neighborhood. 0112 500 400 is the line. Landscape mode, Kwasimu. Send us your name, where you're from, and what are you WhatsApping? Who are you WhatsApping? Tuma salam. But thank you very much for being part of the Fixers community and for the WhatsApp Nation community.
Yeah, indeed. And people from Suba North, please, after today's conversation with your MP, send us your feedback. We'll air it tomorrow. WhatsApp Nation, so-and-so from Suba North. Give us a village in Suba.
Takawiri Island.
In fact, Takawiri.
You picked the most beautiful, right?
Beautiful islands.
Well, all my islands are beautiful, but Takawiri is also really beautiful.
Yeah. So our conversation continues with Millie, and we are talking about what we saw happening in Parliament. We expect that the Speaker of the National Assembly will give a decision today on this particular matter. So do we stay with the status quo on majority minority? Do we go with a court ruling? What do we do? We shall wait to hear what he says. But of course, Millie is giving us her perspective. Janet.
Yes, perspective. Are you seeing the way I was deep then? I'm just like, tumesema? Perspective.
Yes.
Perspective
on
the matter.
Yes.
Okay. Before the break, we were talking about the fact that it's not really known who belongs to which party. I have an issue with that. It should not be that vague. I think, is that what you're also saying?
There
should be a declaration.
Yes,
it should be known. It should be.
Yes, it should be known. If, for instance, that's why a lot of times when people say, they say ODM is in the broad-based government, I say no. We are working with the government, but we are not legally. We are not in broad-based government. It's a legal fact. We may be cooperating, but we are not in government. We are not in any coalition agreement with the government. That's a reality.
Potato.
Yeah, haven't those lines gotten crossed
for purposes of the law, this is not a potato issue.
Yeah. And that's
the one which would be a potato issue is for me where you say, I am in ODM, but I say that I am in...
that you support the Kenya Kwanza
Or I actually talk as though I am
aligned with the UDA.
No.
So, and that's why I think Janet is also asking. It's about that whole issue. It should not be a potato.
No.
It is clear-cut in law. On the records of Parliament, Millie Odhiambo Mabona is a member of Parliament for Suba North, elected on an ODM ticket.
Exactly.
In Parliament, it is very clear Adan Kainan is a member of Parliament representing Eldas constituency, elected on a Jubilee ticket.
Exactly.
Sabina Wanjiro Shege is a member of the National Assembly nominated by
the Jubilee
Party.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
Then the other side says that these are the parties that belong to the Azimio coalition, based on their leaders signing onto the coalition agreement. And these are the rules of entering the coalition and leaving the coalition. And if they're still in the coalition, then this person who is a member of this party then belongs to this coalition. It's clear and white, as black and white.
The law is actually very clear.
It's always very clear, isn't it?
Yeah, no, the law is actually very clear.
Yeah.
It is the implementing of the law that's not very clear sometimes.
Why?
Because even the law says if you do X, Y, Z, or you behave in a manner that seems to suggest X, Y, Z, you will be deemed to have been moved, and if you're deemed to have been moved, you can lose your seat.
Yes.
So then,
but they're deemed.
Who determines the deemed?
Right.
The court can determine the deemed.
But that's the thing.
But
there's a process
unfortunately,
for
that is actually, I still challenge our courts that as much as possible, our courts should adhere to the Constitution and the rule of law at all times, and not to be swayed by political happenings. Because if the courts are consistent, then it means we would have already ensured that politicians have good manners. But because we know if I go to the courts, it depends on how sort of the courts are persuaded at that time. I mean, it's a reality. And so really the people would be able to help us have some good manners.
Right. Where is the registrar of political parties in all of this?
The registrar of political parties also gets, if you ask me, a lot of pressure, because the registrar of political party knows what side of the bread is, buttered.
Yeah.
So they know if I don't swing this way, my chances of going out are very high. So if I'm a registrar of political parties, and I know it's in the interest of the ruling party to say why, I will say why. And if it's in the interest of another to say X, I say X.
So then there are ways that we can protect the independence of the registrar of political parties, so that if people are defecting without actually, following the law, due process, etc., something can be done.
You see, we have a lot of independent officers, but independence in Kenya has a different meaning.
It's not as clear-cut.
It's not clear-cut. We say so many officers are independent, but they are not, in fact, independent. The only thing independent about them is the name independent.
We talked a little bit about the word you used about political manners, bad manners, political hygiene.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether that has played some kind of role to the point where we are now. You just said something very, it's very real. You have a term, it's independent, but it's not as. Would you say some of this kind of almost co-opting of a system, co-opting of ruling, has been influenced by the fact that politicians, political leaders have in fact been the ones to kind of blur those lines, and now maybe people are paying the price for it?
Yeah, politicians have blurred the lines, but I wouldn't just say it's politicians alone, because politicians are a reflection of the society. So it's actually, we come from the society, we don't come from mass. But Kenyans must own up to the fact that we've really messed up our country. We have no sense of values. We have no sense. The words that mean nothing in this country, we say them, but we don't mean them. If you ask me, there are even laws that should be repealed because they are merely cosmetic. We talk about ethics. I was listening yesterday to news, and then I saw, I think it was, my former party leader, Oparanya, who was saying, we cannot get Cusco. We'll never recover this money that people have stolen. And I'm like, how? How can we not recover money stolen from poor Kenyans?
Yeah.
You know, it just asks me, how? And then he also says, but even if we were to recover, it will take very long. Move away from we can't. Just say it will take us long, but we'll recover. So go with the long shot. Don't say, you know, somebody told me recently, a non-Kenyan actually, that the problem with us as Kenyans is we have a happy factor. A happy factor meaning we'll do things so long as we are happy. So that's kind of our standard.
We don't confront what's uncomfortable.
We don't confront what's uncomfortable. So our happy factor kind of, you know, determines what we do. If somebody steals, we just want to be happy. So just forgive them. They've stolen, but we want to be happy.
Si mtu mbaya.
Yeah, si mtu mbaya. Tumwache tu. Yeah, and you see it all over. In countries where you actually see things changing, people don't tolerate impunity. But in the country you are coming from, I come from a society where I know you will tolerate my bad manners.
Yeah.
You expect me to come to parliament and change? No. I'm just a product of the same society. Yeah.
I agree on a couple of things that you've said. That number one, that there is a need for citizens to actually rise up and raise the bar and draw the line. That this is where we draw the line. You cross this line, then we are done. Last week we had a conversation here on our Shika Mic about integrity and how to raise it, make integrity cool again. And even pushing to the extent in our debate, we said, let's have even an integrity score. Right. Where we know if you don't meet this score, then you even lose some benefits in society, including your loans become more expensive and so on and so forth. But then, back to the current issue where we are seeing all this drama in Parliament over issues that are clear-cut. It's clear who is in Parliament sponsored by ODM, who is in Parliament sponsored by UDM, who is in Parliament sponsored by Maendeleo Chap Party, who's in Parliament sponsored by this. Now, which parties form Azimio? How do you get out of Azimio? Has Maendeleo Chap left Azimio formally, or has it not? Has UDM left Azimio formally? Has it not? Jubilee the same. Why are we having grey issues on some very clear-cut matters? Why should we even be having a speaker coming to give another ruling again?
Right. I was also going to ask, what ruling is he making, given that the ruling has already been
well, if you ask me, the speaker making a ruling on this issue sounds to me like he's sitting on appeal of a decision of the High Court, which I think legally is improper. I think what the speaker, he did very well to allow us to, you know, sort of ventilate on the issue. But if you ask me, there were two options. Conform with the decision of the court or appeal the decision of the court. What I've seen them, you know, cleverly doing is create a third option. And the third option they are creating is to say the position has since changed and we can actually prove. But the court brought in an element which they need to challenge in court through appeal, which is bringing in the fact of people. That was a decision that was made by the people, not just by numbers alone. It's numbers brought by people. So if you are saying that these figures have changed, did the people of Suba North agree to this changing? So the court brought in a different element.
Yeah.
That for you to, you know, put aside, you need to go and ask the court to review it, or you need to appeal that decision. But as it is, it's not been done. Though I also do understand that because it has also put Parliament in an awkward situation, because with that it means we can't move as Parliament if that is not sorted out. You either declare us as majority, then we still move anyway, or if you don't want to declare Azimio majority, then it means we cannot form house business. Because yesterday you saw when somebody tried to raise the issue or brought in the issue, and there was so much commotion that the letter had to be, or when buyer had to withdraw. And you said, no, we are still discussing who is the majority, so you can't tell us majority leader.
Who forms the house business.
Yeah, and I want to tell you that Osoro was saying in my dreams that I would be...
the majority.
By law, I already am. So my CV, even if it is for 2 days, First woman majority chief whip. 2 days. They already updated. So it's not in my dreams, it's in my CV. Even in company 2 days.
It's not in my dreams, it's in my CV.
In my CV.
Oh gosh, I know this is pertinent because it deals with leadership and all. I worry about it taking away from the national agenda. I worry about the fact that we move away sometimes from key deliberations on the state of the economy and the nation being paused or arrested because there is what some might deem politicking. You've said, no, I mean, it's to do with law, etc. And you've just said, yeah, this could actually mean that we can't move. Mm-hmm. That makes me nervous. And that's, I think, something people have said over and over again is some of those priority agendas in Parliament, how the members of Parliament sometimes can spend a day or 2 or 3 focusing on certain factors that may come across as self-serving, and then we are not really seeing the move, the needle shift when it comes to, okay, let's now get down to business and talk about these key issues.
Right. What I would want to encourage Kenyans to do is focus on parliamentary business. Kenyans usually focus on any other business. In Parliament, we kind of start our agenda with any other business. And after we've done any other business, we get into parliamentary business. Kenyans rarely focus when we deal. And the parliamentary business takes more time than any other business. And parliamentary business is passing legislation, dealing with, like even when you have the ministers coming in to clarify issues, people are not sure with, but Kenyans have an issue with, like the SHA issue. Today, after the speaker, declares who is the majority, we are going to have the Committee of Health talk about their findings on SHA. And those are issues. But we kind of, even both the public and the media, will focus on other issues, but not on when we actually do the business. Very rarely, unless it's a controversial issue. But Parliament does an amazing amount of work. Yeah. So you're throwing I'm not worried that the issues that we say, sideshows. First of all, we are human. Somebody, for instance, I tell you, Honorable Jeanette in the clip that you're sharing, talked about this seat is very warm. Somebody will pick it up and say, now look at parliamentarians just talking about seats being warm. But we are human beings. We must also have sense of humor, Right. So we can also crack jokes. Yeah. Sometimes I tell people when I write things on my Facebook and somebody comes and tells me, oh, instead of dealing with our issues, I told them we also use the toilet. To tell you we are basically human. Right. So don't think that...
Walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah.
There's then the issue of what this means. Because there's someone thinking, okay, majority, minority, what does that mean for me?
What should it matter?
Come June this year, if there's another finance bill that is, again, punitive and painful, has anything shifted as far as, Azimio moving to majority? What does that mean for me? Right.
What does that mean to you? It's because when you're in majority, then it means when you see, like, for instance, who moves, but the agenda would be the majority part. So it actually gives you a chance to set the pace of now what you are saying, what is important, what should be prioritized and all that. When you're a majority, you do that. But a lot of times, this is not the first time, even if you are there, that it would happen. When I got into Parliament the first time, the presidency was elsewhere, but we were the majority in the House. So it actually can work. And in a situation where we are also saying that Azimio is collaborating, or at least part of Azimio is collaborating with the government. I don't even see the big deal why there's such a big fight about Jeanette being the majority leader or me being majority whip. Because
currently you are core. Your core whips.
We are collaborating. I prefer to use the word collaborating because I'm a lawyer, so I know there's a difference between being in or collaborating. We are just collaborating. And we are collaborating for the same reasons you are saying, to enable the country move forward. And the genesis of this was after the Gen Z issues, which the Gen Zs think is a betrayal. But for those of us who have been there, done that, no, it's not really a betrayal. Because then after all that, then what? There was no answer to then. Then what? We were going to have a country. Right. The army was already on the streets.
Can there then only be answered with this collaboration or co-working?
Well, we are open to other ideas, but for us right now, it appears that could have been the only one, but we don't know what other one.
How about this as an idea?
Yes.
Now, the Constitution sets 3 institutions: the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. The legislature oversights the executive, makes laws, and represents the people. When people were raising issues and even storming Parliament, and even outside as we're talking and raising concerns about Parliament, it's whether Parliament is actually living to the ideal, the spirit of the Constitution which creates it. Are you representing the people? Are you oversighting the executive?
Well, we have
even now with the collaboration.
Yes.
The expectation from this other side, Millie, is it doesn't matter collaboration, whatever you call it, as long as the House of Parliament is actually asking the right questions and oversighting the executive properly. Would you say that you're doing that?
Yes, I would say we are doing that.
Really?
And we have been on recess now for slightly over 2 months. And we had a meeting to prepare us for this session. And I think you notice what covered most of it.
Sure.
Was sure.
Yep.
Yes. And people are like, oh, parliamentarians are now awake. No, we are not awake. You know, for us, we don't deal with maybe one isolated case. During this period that we went back to our constituencies, you gather the data and you actually discover there's a problem. And you notice members of parliament across raised this issue. I raised the issue. Ichungwa raised the issue. Other people raised the issue. Why? Because we know it's not happening. And we told the parliament, we told the government, sort out this mess. Why? Because if you don't sort out the mess, first and foremost, I'm answerable to the people of Suba North.
Yeah.
If I'm not answerable to the people of Suba North, Ntazama. There are no two ways about it.
I hear you. Can I just push back on it a little bit?
Yes.
On just the rollout of SHA and where we are at right now.
Yes.
Okay. Among the things that the leadership of SHA and the Ministry of Health was responding to was whether they have the capacity to roll out primary health care, to roll out emergency, right? And whether they have sufficient funds for this, whether they have sufficient funds to actually roll out SHIF itself in terms of the number of contributions. These are things that parliamentarians passed in law.
Yes.
Parliamentarians also allocated funds to these funds, the primary healthcare fund. So when MPs now sit back and ask, but now this thing is not working, you only gave the primary healthcare fund a lot, 10 billion shillings. How was it going to work?
Well, I'll let you know that today the health committee is going to give a comprehensive report. I'd be giving you tidbits because I've not done that comprehensive review, but the health committee will. But from what I could gather from the meeting that we had, they acknowledge that they're having transitional challenges in terms of personnel, in terms of financing. And financing is not about whether we have appropriated or not. We do appropriate. But there's nobody pressing the button for the money to come out. That was a challenge. And I think that is also a factor of revenue collection and availability of financing and all that, which is not really now up to Parliament. Parliament, we have done our part. But I think the more comprehensive report will come out this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But for sure, I can tell you, the problem is in implementation. There were many, many issues, and I want to thank the acting CEO. He was very candid. I can't share a lot of the things that he talked with us off media, but they acknowledged that they're having challenges.
From the oversight perspective, was there the question of the why, even with the shift happening, right? Why the haste? Why the rushed nature of it? Even before we get to implementation, right? Was there a questioning of why are we shifting? Is it necessary to do so? Are we ready to do so?
Well, that was Kenya Kwanza agenda.
Right.
When they were campaigning, they gave that as part of the things that they are going to do to give affordable healthcare.
Yeah.
And they provided that framework to enable the affordable, healthcare for all Kenyans. And there are challenges in implementing the vision. I think I'll repeat what I told them to that, that the vision, if you listen to them, sounds really nice. Like in kwa ground vitu ni different. But the vision, it's like one time when we were building some very nice facility, in Suba North for Fisher. Fisher. When we listened, I first went into Suba North, we listened to the issues of the fishermen. And we said, how do we deal with the challenges that they have? So we built a facility with CDF. And we had a beautiful, vision about it. Lakini kama ungeangalia what came out and what the vision we had. Now I've seen a fish market in Oma Bay and I'm like, that's actually what we intended to do. So the implementer.
That was the dream.
That was the dream.
Yeah, there's still so many questions, but I know we're out of time. Somebody wants to know about the children's bill that you had tabled and that kind of thing. So hopefully you can answer behind the scenes and we can share it with the public. Okay. Yeah, it's important. But,
and come again soon. So we can also talk about all this work and the work that Parliament is doing. And now your role as a whip.
Yes.
Collaborating minority whip of the National Assembly.
Right now I'm still majority.
Right now you're majority.
Until the courts decide otherwise, I'm still the de jure majority.
Okay.
I may be de facto, I may not be de facto, but I'm de jure.
You're there.
I'm majority.
Salam to you from Brian Joel Jasuba, who says to Kolotin from Bida. Say hi to our Amilo. Mwambie, and I saw you saying this in Parliament. Telo ikao.
Telo kumingato.
What does that mean?
What does it mean?
It's more like what is in my book, rig or be rigged. Leadership is taken. Nobody gives you leadership.
Telo ikao, telo kumingato. Fix the nation. Let's fix the nation together. Thank you very much. We've been having Millie Odhiambo, MP Suba North, as our guest. In the next hour, lest we forget,